If one of the problems is your distorted perception of risk, then you have to learn how to deal with risk the right way. And to do that, you need to stop feeling risk and start measuring it. Most people think risk is about how much something moves, if the price goes up or down, if it's volatile, if it feels scary. That's wrong. Real risk is the probability of permanent loss, not short-term pain. Let's be clear. If you invest $10,000 into a diversified ETF like the S&P 500 and it drops 30%, you lost $3,000 on paper. But the historical probability of full recovery over 10 years is basically 100%. That's not real risk. That's just waiting. Now, if you put the same $10,000 into a friend's idea with no legal contract, no business plan, and no control, the odds of permanent loss shoot up. That's risk. Same amount of money, completely different outcomes. And most people don't know how to tell the difference. The same thing applies to business. People say starting a business is risky, but data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that 65% of businesses survive at least 2 years and 50% make it to year 5. So when people say half fail, the second level way to see it is half succeed. If you launch a business that costs $20,000 to start and has a 50% chance of making $50,000 a year, that's a positive expected value. Even if 2 fail, the one that works can pay for all of them and more. And if you are smart, study the business before getting into it and know what you are doing, you are already ahead of most people. Many people start a business out of desperation without knowing anything. This is why smart investors think in terms of expected value, not fear. What's the expected return of an action adjusted for probability? If there's a 60% chance you'll make $10,000 and a 40% chance you'll lose $5,000, the expected value of that decision is positive. It's worth doing, even if it still feels risky. But if the odds are reversed, it's a bad bet, no matter how exciting it looks. And here's where second-level thinking kicks in. In investing, volatility is not your enemy. In fact, since 1980, the S&P 500 has had an average drop of 14% inside each year, but still finished positive in 77% of those years. Meaning, if you freaked out every time things got volatile, you'd miss almost every recovery. So no, the goal is not to avoid risk. The goal is to understand it, price it, and then take it with consistency. Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize winner and author of Thinking Fast and Slow, said that good decisions don't come from being bold. They come from having a good process. When you write things down, calculate upside and downside, define time frames, and think in probabilities instead of feelings, you don't need to be fearless. You just need to be structured. You don't eliminate risk. You make it predictable. And when you do that, you stop freezing. You stop asking, what if I lose? And start asking, what's this worth if I win? You stop chasing the next big thing and start building something that actually lasts. Another change you have to make is this: stop comparing yourself. Not because it's bad for your self-esteem, but because it's intellectually lazy and strategically useless. When you compare yourself to someone else's success, you're usually doing it without access to the variables that got them there. You don't know their cost of capital. You don't know their leverage, their burn rate, their risk exposure, their personal liabilities. You don't know how much luck was involved, or if what they're showing you is even real. What you're doing is benchmarking yourself against outputs, not inputs, and that's a problem. Let's say someone made $5 million on crypto. You didn't, so you feel behind. But here's what you didn't see. That person might have borrowed money, sold at the wrong time, paid 27.5% in capital gains tax, and now has no clue how to reinvest. Or worse, they got lucky once, and now they think they're a genius. That's not wealth, that's fragility. Comparison pushes you to optimize for speed instead of sustainability. It makes you take shortcuts to catch up in a race that doesn't exist, and the data backs this up. A study published in Nature Communications in 2021 found that people who regularly engage in upward comparison, meaning they constantly compare themselves to people doing better, show higher levels of anxiety, distraction, and financial risk-taking. In short, comparison makes you feel poor even when you're not, and that feeling pushes you to make worse decisions. If you're going to act like an investor or an entrepreneur, you need to think like one, and no serious investor prices assets based on emotion. So why are you pricing your life that way? Focus on your own cost structure, your own timeline, your own risk tolerance, your own compounding engine, because Because the truth is, comparison is a distraction from execution. And every minute you spend watching someone else's scoreboard is a minute you're not building your own. Stay in your game. Bye, cousin.